Today I'm going to give you 5 tips to make your characters more interesting. I'm Razumazo and I'll be your game master for today. The first thing we should ask ourselves is, why do we want to make our characters more interesting? I mean, we have the stats, we have our dice, we're ready to go, right? Wrong. There is a reason why every RPG system out there starts the character creation process by having you come up with a concept for your character and a personality for your character. So if you only think of your character as stats and equipment, why would you even play an RPG? Why not just play a board game? Maybe Gloomhaven. I'm not saying that playing RPGs without fleshed out characters is wrong, but in my experience, if you do spend this extra time on your character, it will become a far more fun game for you. But how exactly do you do this? How do you flesh out your character? Let me give you 5 tips to start with. But before I do that, please click the like and the subscribe. And if you want to see me live and see me play RPGs, come over to Twitch where I stream. You can see my schedule over there. And it will be so interesting to hear your views on how to flesh out characters. So go over to Twitch. It's that way. Over there. Now let's do this. This is an easy one, but a lot of players forget about it. Do you remember that scene in Lord of the Rings when the hobbits are in the prancing pony and they look over in the corner and they see this mysterious person looking at them? Do you remember what he was wearing? Or in literally any Marvel movie, do you remember the scene where the hero finally gets his suit? The reason why I remember these scenes and what the characters look like is because their suits and what they were wearing is part of the character. So describing what your character is wearing, how they have their hair, what colors they are wearing, any special equipment, helps you and everyone at the table imagine what your character is like. Let me give you an example. I just played a Call of Cthulhu campaign where I was this very rich lawyer. He insisted on wearing white suits everywhere, and of course that made him stand out anywhere he went, and that was not to his advantage. And that made everyone around him think that he was a rich fool, which he kind of was. But the point is that it really helped me define the character, and constantly referring to me only wearing white suits made everyone at the table understand who I was. So tip number 1 is describe your character, what they are wearing and what they look like. The greatest motivators for any living being is fear. Fear of being eaten, fear of being alone, fear of not having any friends, fear of just... Anyway, understanding what your character is afraid of will make you understand what makes him or her tick. So it also gives you something you can use in your roleplay. Now, fear comes in many different forms, and your character can have actual phobias, but it can also be more subtle than that. So usually I suggest to my players they've come up with 2 things that their character strongly dislikes. So it can be anything from riding horses to being alone to certain kinds of foods to fighting a specific kind of monster. These things are things that the character will do anything he can to avoid. But if it happens, if he's really forced into a situation where he has to do this thing, he can do it. That's not the case with phobias. A phobia is something that the character is so afraid of that when it happens, he will break down crying, he will run away, he will go catatonic, he will completely lose it. And having your character have a phobia can be a very great motivator for the character, and it can also give your game master a lot of good story hooks. But just remember that playing a phobia can be a bit difficult. If you want to list a phobia, here is a list. So you can see there's really a lot of phobias to pick from. So the trick with fears and phobias is to talk to your game master about them. Let him know that that your character has these phobias, and he can integrate them into the campaign. Disclaimer time: do not pick anything you are actually afraid of in real life, because if your game master starts describing these things and you actually become afraid, then it can get really weird around the table where you're playing. So don't do that. On to the next tip. Tip number 3 is about your character goals, your character's goals in life. And I usually do this. I say that each character has at least 2 goals. One is an open goal, something you tell other people about, you tell the other players about. Your character will talk about this in the world they are in. And the second goal is something secret, something that your character wants, something that might not be perfectly normal, that the character will try and obtain or do through your campaign. So, for example, I would love to join my passion for IT and role-playing games and become rich somehow. And I don't mind talking to other people about this, but I also have a hidden goal where I want to become the High Priest of Cthulhu and summon him and take over the world. Tip number 3. Pick an open goal for your character, something that he wants to achieve in life and he doesn't mind talking to other people about. It can be anything from classic revenge goals to your character just wanting to open a small shop somewhere or running the family farm when he's done adventuring. Having a goal like this will give you story hooks that you can use to roleplay with your fellow players, but also talk to NPCs about. Some characters also have a goal they don't talk about. Personally, I don't have that kind of goal, no. But your character definitely should. The secret goal is something your character tries to keep to himself, and it can be because he's ashamed. It can also be because it kind of conflicts with the personality he wants to project to others. So an example could be a knightly paladin who is very, very good, and he believes that all life is holy and doesn't want to kill anyone. But his secret goal could be to kill a lot of tieflings because he really, really dislikes them, or they did something to his family or whatever. But he would end up having this dark side to him that no one really knows about, that could give an interesting contrast for the role-playing. Okay, that was a bit of a dark example, so let's talk about one of my characters I played a while back. I was playing this young bard who came from a very rich merchant family, and his goal was to become the savior of all the poor people and, be a good hero. But so that was his open goal, but in fact his real story was that he was a farm boy who had stolen some clothes somewhere, some fancy clothes, and now he went out into the world claiming to be a rich bard. So his hidden goal was to never be discovered, which of course he was. This gave my characters 2 completely different motivations, and balancing those 2 led to some really interesting situations in the game. One thing I do need to say here is you of course need to tell everything to your game master, because if you don't do that, he or she can't use your story as story hooks in the campaign. But you should also talk to your fellow players about it. You should tell them the secret motivation, because that will give them story hooks, and then you can get a better role-playing session going. Of course, if you think your hidden motivation is better to be something that is revealed later on, then you can do that as well. That was a long one. On to tip number 4. This is a very simple and easy one, and some people would say that it has been overdone, but it really helps in your role-playing. So give your character a physical quirk. This can be anything from having lost an eye, to always fiddling with their hair when they talk, to always having their shoulders up like this. Something. And then you do that every time you speak in character. It helps so much. That was a short one. To the tipmobile. The final tip for this video is give your character a family and friends. It's as simple as that. Very few people exist in a vacuum. Your character shouldn't exist in a vacuum either. We all know the cliche of my entire family was killed by orcs or they all died in a plane crash. Please don't do that. Instead, spend some time thinking about who is your character's family, mother, father, siblings, friends, and where are these people now? Think about the relationship to these people and how do they feel about what your character is doing right now. If your character is an adventurer, then how do they feel about that? Or if your character is a police officer, how do they feel about that? Having friends and family gives your character something to care about, and this can be absolutely brilliant story hooks in the game. Again, of course, remember to talk to your game master about it. Give him or her all the details. If you don't, well, then it's not gonna be part of the campaign. And with that, our time in this video has come to an end, but it doesn't have to be the final end. Please come over to Twitch and join us in the conversation. We play RPGs and RPG-related games. And if you have any questions about this video or RPGs in general, you can talk to me directly. It's technology. As I said, Twitch, it's right over there. If you liked the video, remember, thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down. Click the subscribe. It really helps the channel. Until next time, I'm Razumazu, signing off.